Hey everybody, what I'm going to do today is kind of go through my process of taking a script written by someone else, turning that into thumbnails, and then how the whole kind of translation process between script to plots to the final page. And let's get started right now. What do you say? All right. So the script, when I pick up the script, I read it, I go through and just get a cursory evaluation of what has to happen, what is happening, just to get a vibe for the story. What I've done here is I'll sit down and I'll print out the script and I'll make boxes around each individual panel. That kind of isolates all that panel's description. It makes it more of a bite-sized chunk that I can, I can deal with in that capacity instead of having to try to, think about this whole thing as a huge, large picture. Breaking it apart like this, I figure out what my limitations are with, in this case, 9-panel grid. You can see the initial rough thumbnail here that I did. So all that I did there is just my concerns were worrying about moment choice and staging, how much dialogue I have in each panel, how much can I focus more on character and acting than on dialogue, and then facial expression, body language. In this case, it's basically a conversation of two people back and forth, so hand gestures and camera angle kind of come into play a lot with this as well, and also trying to get the emphasis that the writer is trying to get in each panel as well. So at this point, it was really dealing with a grid, going through and basically trying to make an interesting shot, convey the information, convey the emotions through based on the dialogue that the writer provided, and have some kind of beat to the page, some kind of rhythm to the page of how the whole thing plays out. Right here we've got a side-by-side comparison. On the left side I've got my plots, on the right side I've got my the pencils that I went straight to the page with. But you can see there's a big difference. There's a big variation between the two pages where I have I've changed things as far as the body language, the gestures, the facial expressions a little bit, the positioning of the body, allowing a little bit more breathing room between the dialogue balloons and the characters or the action that's happening on the page itself. And here you can see that the top panels I made a little bit larger. The second tier of panels I made a little bit tighter to have a little bit more of a quick rhythm in the reading, because there's not quite as much dialogue happening there, and it's more. It was a kind of a crescendo to the page, if it were. You're leading up to panel 4. That's kind of the initial shock, but that's not the full, I guess, scope of what the emotional impact is for this character here. Now, when I went on to the final inks, this is where I'm kind of breathing a little bit more life into the initial pencils. I'm going through and adding some more texture. I'm refining everything, refining facial expressions and gestures, and going through and really just refining at this point. This is a more kind of methodical, machine-like process compared to how I usually do, which is a little bit more. I go a little bit more on whimsy, on a whim, if I want to have. If something strikes me last minute, I can change it. This, I think, really is a good exercise for people when you're worried purely on just the cartooning itself and not the creation of the source material. This is something else I do with the H.P. Lovecraft adaptation that I'm working on, is that I had that initial source material there, and what was my job is to interpret those ideas visually. Now, and here we've got my final inks with the dialogue on it as well, so you can see how important it is at the onset, especially with using somebody else's dialogue that's already set in stone, is to make sure you have enough room for all of your dialogue and all your word balloons, and how that's really fit in more with the flow of the page now. That's one of dealing with a grid structure, it's one of the bigger kind of concerns that I have with the flow of the page, because ultimately that's the visuals also help, but I think vast majority people mostly follow word balloons as far as the flow of the page goes, and I was kind of constricted in certain instances here to where I could put certain things in, and I couldn't worry about it too much. It's very kind of a throwback 1960s kind of style comic, so that's kind of, I think, expressed here in the layouts and the dialogue and everything. But that's what I got right now for, this is kind of an intro piece. I might do a more refined one later. I appreciate everybody listening and watching.